So that is a certificate that deals with cannabinoids and opioids and the relationship together. I also hold a certificate as a bud tender, which is a new standard for being able to dispense cannabis, like the Washington State, Oregon, and Vancouver and Victoria are probably going to implement that as well, which is kind of like a food safe course on how to deal with the public, how to deal with the handling of the product, how to deal with other issues as well as community issues. So it's called a bud tender course. We're going to be all over it through the new industry, I think. So I'm well ahead of the game on that. So do my staff. Staff also hold those certificates as well. I'm also a published author for a medical cannabis book on seeds, which is also with the Canadian Library of Congress. I've been part of the change of the landscape of Health Canada's MMPR and MMAR since the inception back in 2000-2001. I was part of the direct consultation with Health Canada in the first policy-making attempts. I facilitate many community speaking engagements on policy and cannabis, and the understanding of cannabis and its role it plays in our society today. And Zach Walsh is here today to speak about that on our behalf with us. Who we are? Well, we're Avitas Pharmaco and the Be Kind Okanagan Growers and Compassion Club. I operate two other compassion clubs, and I need to be specific that it's not dispensaries, they're compassion clubs. I've been operating that one in Kelowna for 8 years. I've been operating the one in Vernon for 6. I'm also issued business licenses under that to both those cities. We have never had one single issue or complaint from a community person, a business, or anybody else. So that's kind of a plus for us coming here today to let you know that. This is a private club, so membership can only be accessed at our facility if you hold a B1, a B2, a Section 129 exemption, or a doctor's accompanied diagnosis. So a clinical diagnosis if you have cancer, you'll be able to access on the grounds that a physician has indicated that that's what you have. Age limit, well, cancer doesn't have an age. MS doesn't have an age. Epilepsy doesn't have an age. So we assist some people, younger people, to go through the process to acquire it safely. And that's the whole purpose why we're here. It's not about, smoking weed and getting high. Because if it was, I probably wouldn't be here either. We offer food security, so we have our own in-house food bank. We also offer redirection to services such as cancer services, housing, and mental health. I hope I get to come back up and answer some questions afterwards, but I do want to let you know that this for us is providing safe access. Harm reduction is key. So that's why we're here. I want to ask council tonight to extend or allow us to have a temporary operating permit until the city puts into place a bylaw that will allow us to do it without feeling like we're criminals. I heard a lot of stuff being said about the fact that, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. And I included some case law. You may have all got them. It's a lot of dry reading, so maybe you didn't read them all, but it's a progression. And the other cities are doing it, and they're allowing for it, and they're regulating it. And we want to be part of that regulation and that change. We can offer that to council. So we want to ask that we extend that membership until there's a city bylaw in place. And I'd like to introduce a friend and colleague, Zach Walsh, if you could come up and just present some stuff for us with us.
So you're calling up as your expert witness,
Yes,
so to speak. I'll allow
yes.
one, so
Thank you.
by all means.
Yes. And thanks. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Zach Walsh. I'm a clinical psychologist registered with the College of Psychologists of British Columbia, and I'm a tenured professor at the University of British Columbia in the Department of Psychology. I'm also a cannabis researcher, published a number of articles and given testimony on the medical and non-medical use of cannabis. Bob Mr. K had let me know that he was coming to speak to council and asked if I could write a letter in support talking about the work that I've done with Be Kind. I'm more than happy to do so. I even put on a tie and came down from Kelowna. So I'm thrilled at any opportunity to speak on behalf of what I see as an important movement, and I believe that Be Kind are exemplars of this important health movement. I should say that I don't have any financial interest in Be Kind. I don't get any compensation from them whatsoever. My first contact with Be Kind was in 2010, shortly after I was hired at UBC. And that date is important because at that time there were far fewer cannabis dispensaries. I believe that Be Kind at that time were one of the few outside of a major urban center, and that took considerable courage. It was much less mainstream, and I know from speaking with Bob that they were constantly under threat, and they had a lot on the line. So their courage in providing important health services is very moving to me, and what I'd say one of the rare examples that I've had in my professional career to work with someone who I consider their work heroic. I've maintained a productive collaborative relationship with them since 2010, and I feel privileged to work with them on multiple research projects that have had positive local, national, and international impacts. You'll hear again and again that one of the issues with medical cannabis is the lack of the research base. That's in large part due to considerable barriers to researching cannabis, and it makes it all the more important that an organization like Be Kind is willing to invite researchers in to establish a research base for this medicine. So my first collaboration with them was on a study funded, ultimately was funded by Interior Health, but through and Canadian Institute of Health Research, but through the Centre for Healthy Living and Chronic Disease Prevention at UBC. And together we realized our goal of better understanding medical cannabis use in Canada. And the results of the study that we did with Be Kind have been the basis of 3 articles, and they've also been the basis of invited consultations to the Canadian House of Commons, the Department of Public Health in Uruguay. All kinds of international presentations have come from the data that would not have been available were it not for Be Kind. I also worked with Be Kind as part of the Medical Cannabis Standards Engagement, Evaluation, and Dissemination Project. That was a project that I was lead investigator on, funded by the Peter Wall initiative through UBC as well. And that was to develop regulations for the operation of medical cannabis dispensaries. So I think it's appropriate, as you guys recognize, these dispensaries are operating, and they have been operating for since 2000 or so in a gray area. And they took it on themselves to regulate themselves, given that there was a lack of political will at the time to regulate officially. And representatives of Be Kind were at all 3 of our annual meetings, one of the few dispensaries that demonstrated that level of commitment and consistency. And I was impressed at each meeting by their engagement and commitment to patient care. And the recommendations that came out of the seed meetings formed a partial basis for the city regulations in the city of Vancouver and Victoria. They're now regulating cannabis dispensaries. So Be Kind were an active and engaged participant in that process that has had influence across the province. And when we see legal cannabis in the coming months across Canada, those regulations are going to be a valuable guide. So that is, again, in part thanks to the work of Be Kind. My esteem for their work is reflected in my decision to supervise students who are doing research at these dispensaries. So that gave me an opportunity to observe their practices firsthand, where I've been impressed by the professionalism and level of patient care. I've also supervised students at other institutions like Interior Health School Division 23, the John Howard Society, and I can say that I'm just as comfortable with the level of safety and support that the students get at Be Kind as they do at those other placement sites. I think they're clearly dedicated and serious providers of health services, and I would gladly continue to work with them. I think they're to be commended for providing students with important learning opportunities and delivering health services in a compassionate and professional manner. In general, their interest in generating evidence related to medical cannabis highlights their seriousness and integrity. There's few other, if any other, dispensaries that have demonstrated that level of consistent commitment. And that's reflected in Robert Kay's authorship on several academic articles and public health presentations. In some, I believe they're doing important, valuable work. They're doing it as well as I've seen it done, and I am an expert on medical cannabis dispensaries. They're solid community members, and I do believe that they're on the right side of history, and they have been on the right side of history before it was as easy as it is now, even though it's not easy. And so when we look back, we'll see Be Kind as sort of brave forerunners of what we're going to see is, I believe, a very effective and compassionate way of treating people with serious mental health issues. And I'm honored to be able to speak to that work. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to address those.
Mr. Walsh. Councillor Saeed?
Thank you, through your worship. Mr. Zach Walsh?
Yeah.
I thought your face seemed familiar, because now that I remember our path crossed when we were presenting at a TEDx debate.
Okay, yes.
The question I have for you is, based on the experience that you have, are there concrete proofs that the cannabis does actually have medical benefits? And are these published, and how well recognized are they?
Well, there's a large literature in a variety of areas. It's been very hard to do the kind of controlled clinical trials that are typically the gold standard, but there's good evidence of cannabis being effective for pain, for seizures, for nausea, and a variety of other less common conditions, anxiety, sleep. I think in the next decade we're going to see a tremendous amount of research in support of it, but right now the research base is comparable to other widely used medicines, but I wouldn't say that it's where we'd like it to be. It's going to be another 10 years, and a lot of it has to do with the barriers to researching it.
So, thank you, Mr. Walsh. You mind taking a seat? So, Mr. Kay, I'm not sure if you want to come forward to the podium again. Mr. Cook, do you have any questions from Mr. Kay's presentation?
Through the chair, just a few short questions here. Just an understanding about the producer license that you do have, or your operation does have. So that would allow you to produce, but in operation the storefront, that also allow you?
It does not allow for the storefront sale, but if I did set it up as a storefront and wanted to sell out of there, I could. My designated growers or that I grow for could come there and technically purchase it from me. It wouldn't be breaking the law. But to do in the tens of thousands might be a different story, like Vancouver does. So,
and as a compassion club that you mentioned, is that considered a society, or is that a for-profit business?
no, it is for profit because there has to be some accountability, and I need to be able to disperse that to other community people.
I'm just asking these because there seems to be, based on our previous report with the Russian Finishing Cafe, there seems to be quite a distinct operational.
I honestly don't know what they do or how they operate. I can't comment on it. As a matter of fact, any of the other clubs, I don't know how they operate or who they are, only through a handshake.
And that's all the questions I have.
So, Council, any questions from Mr. Kay's presentation? Councillor Saeed?
Thank you, through your worship. Mr. Kay, you mentioned that you have two business licenses, one in Vernon and one in Kelowna.
Yes, that's correct.
What are the classifications?
Classifications, I have them with me. If you just let me grab them real quick, I'll stick it there. So the classification for my Kelowna location on Highway 33 in Rutland at West 288 is for the Be Kind Okanagan Growers and Compassion Club. That's what that license is issued for. And the one in Vernon is identical to that. Same.
Mr. Kunka?
Sorry to interrupt. Through your chair, what is the business license type definition? What is that definition? Merchandise?
No merchandising. No. It says business owner, description, private club.
Any other questions for Mr. Kay? Councillor Watt?
Thank you, through the chair. Are the Kelowna and Vernon locations, are they storefront?
Absolutely, yes.
I have one question, Mr. Kay. So, in our last hearing, or actually, someone in the industry had talked about creating some sort of set of standards or code of ethics. Is that something you believe in or would adhere to if that was one of the recommendations coming out of staff's report is sort of a localized set of standards, code of ethics? Is
Absolutely.
that what things you abide by?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that's imperative because if you look around, you can see the increase of what's going on. You look at West Kelowna, they got 7 within the first, or 5 in the first block and a half, and 2 that are down the lower end. You have Kelowna that they're popping up all over. This has been my goal since I came here probably, I think 3 years ago when I attempted to open and tried to have communication. It is imperative to have a regulation put in place. It is imperative to have the community know what we're doing and how we're going to be regulated. Everything from criminal record checks to age limits, not only for the medical side, but you're also going to be facing recreational. And the rollover is going to be, you know, fast and furious, and people are going to be applying just like they did for the LPs. Over 800 applications for licensed producers, but you have to have regulation. And it's something I feel that we do extremely well. You know, the code of conduct. You know, it outlines what you have to do, how you have to acquire it, and you can't deviate from it. It has to be in stone, and we gotta put it together. You gotta, you know, and we need to be part of that because we're the experts in what we do. We want to see what's going to happen. Licensing fees, you know, they're $30,000 in Vancouver, but they're also, if you know, they're also open to anybody. You don't have to have a medical license. You can walk right in tomorrow and purchase cannabis in some of these locations. That's a larger population. We look at that and say, there's got to be something in place that's equal and fair for everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Saeed, do you have another question?
Yes, through the chair, based on the decision we make today, let's say it is closed, how many patients will be affected?
Well, listen, there's probably, you know, Dan and I did a little little study today. There's got to be the high 17,000 people that use medical cannabis in the Okanagan region. Now, the idea, I'll just let you know, is to have it so that when you go to the same place all the time, you get the same quality, the same service, and everything is the same, right? It is kind of nerve-wracking to go into a location. When you ask the numbers of people, I serve 7,500 just in Kelowna on a regular basis. They're in this region for medical use only. You know, I'm not sure. Maybe there's probably 2,500 to maybe 5,000. Maybe some other people can speak to that. I'm not sure, but they'll come from all over here, and they'll spend that dollar here. So,
That's what?
Thank you, through the chair. Sorry, I'm just curious for clarification. You said that your business license, I believe it was for Kelowna, maybe it was Kelowna and Vernon, is for private club.
absolutely.
So, can people walking up the street?
Yes, well, we set it up, if you've never been to ours, it's set up so that there's a storefront, there's an individual with a desk that can do an intake with you, so you don't get to walk in and see the product. It's always behind a secure door, a buzz lock door, where there's other staff members. So it's not open to the general public, you can't walk in. You can walk in, but you can't access. It's like going to the Avitas or the Legion or something along those lines, where people can gather. When you hold a medical marijuana license, there's some regulations that you can do, such as gathering as individuals to use your medicine individually. Kind of like if you were a diabetic, you could use your insulin wherever you went. Those are some services that we provide, as well as our other ones as a compassion club and not as a dispensary. If that makes any sense.
Okay, so you can stay standing because this
All
is
right.
sort of the last chance for staff. If there's anything else you want to closing summary, and I'll ask the same of you. Mr. Kunka?
Through the chair, as stated on the previous report in July, it wasn't my intent to disregard the medical uses of cannabis products. It's basically to deal with legislation, and we have nothing as a municipal staff to deal with this. And again, my understanding and our references from our legal counsel that it is not a legal activity, and therefore it's hard for us to continue giving a business license. Again, it sets a precedent. Again, I feel for anybody who is ill and needs these products, but again, there seems to be quite a variation of the type of services that will be provided in town, and until something is set up, I think it's important for us to take a stand and basically try to set the clock at zero and restart this once we figure this out with the staff and providing a proper report to council.
Mr. Kay, any closing comments and summary?
Yeah, I'd like to just to follow up that. I understand it. It's controversial. It's something that pulls on all the heartstrings from faith-based to maybe illegal activity. All those things play into it. One of the things I want to say, and I know it's kind of weird out there, but it goes along the lines to say that massage parlors exist in your community, and they're licensed. And behind closed doors, these things occur. Is it right? Well, some people would say no, but if you're in a wheelchair or you want access to have, the sensation of a massage or rub and tug, whatever you want to call it, they exist. But if there's activity that is illegal, in the sense that it's being seen and discovered, these people hold licenses. Once they possess it, they're no longer breaking the law. And if I possess it, then I'm not breaking the law. If I set it down here and someone picks it up over here, yeah, there's a breaking the law. You have jaywalking. You're breaking the law. But people do it all the time. Is it the same? Well, people will argue that. Regulation is coming. We need this now. We need to be part of the community and doing it now. To delay us or to have us, shut down, we did. I complied. He asked me, and I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it, but because it's important for us to be able to come forth here today and speak what we have to say, and not be defined, because I get it. I don't want to slap anyone in the face, but I can't go away. You see me here today. I'm passionate about it. That's all I'm going to say.
So, council, this particular issue, how do we want to proceed? Mr. White?
Thank you to the chair. Wow, thank you, Mr. Kay. I have such a struggle here because without disclosing fully, I know of people who have benefited immensely from medical cannabis, and I do support it, and I do support it helping people. This is not about the worth, or the value, or the benefit, or the merits of medical cannabis. This, unfortunately and truthfully, is about our business licensing, and we don't have a fit yet. So I think it's important that we move forward as a city, as a municipality, in conjunction with the municipal and federal governments to help regulate this. I would love to, without being out of line, invite you to be part of that process. But from a business licensing perspective, it's just not something that, unfortunately, I believe we can move forward with. I think my question for Mr. Kunkel would be, is there an ability to suspend this license? I know there's, we're going through our own process, going to be an announcement of some kind probably on August 24th, or does this have to be something that's canceled?
Mr. Kunkel, do you have an answer for that?
Through the chair, the current bylaw, the way it's worded, it is suspended. Again, this is the appeal for the suspension, but it's also consideration for cancellation. So to my understanding, it can be split, continue on in suspension, and they can continue to operate or start up again in violation of that, which should incur enforcement action. They're very similar in wording. I'm not sorry if that doesn't answer your question.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering if you did answer the question. Having the license suspended is different to me than canceling it, and that is something that I would encourage the rest of us to at least consider while decisions are being made through other government levels.
Councillor Sahid?
Thank you, Councillor Watt, for your comments. And Mr. Kunkel, I do understand the challenges. It's not easy when it's illegal. And the word I keep hearing over and over is that it is an illegal activity. It is illegal. Well, the fact is it's illegal because we're keeping it illegal. So, there you go. Abortion rights was illegal, and so was same-sex marriage. So, the decision I'm based is on moral grounds, because I think it's the right thing to do, and I will not support the motion.
I know it's difficult, but we're trying to work through this. Other comments? Councillor Cronin?
Thank you. Yeah, through the chair. I have to say that I think that the presentation today was excellent and gave me a lot of really good idea of how I would like to see this go forward in the city and the parameters I'd like to see for this type of business. And I think it's the proponent here is very professional, and I am very impressed by the credentials and the passion. But not every shop is going to be, or cannabis shop or medical marijuana or compassionate club is going to be like this. And so we need to set up these parameters, and I'm hoping that you can help with Mr. Kay with this, through your worship. Help us set up these parameters so that we have professional, not dispensaries, clubs set up here in Penticton, and they're done properly. And until the federal government can get their act together and support us, because they're leaving us to dangle here. So I'm going to have to, unfortunately, go with the staff recommendation, but I want us, again, I hope we can set this up in an appropriate way so that your services are available to the city.
Okay, Councilor Penticton? And by the way, we still don't have a recommendation, we're just bantering about. So. Councilor Penticton?
Yeah, my feeling hasn't changed on this since our last hearing that we had. I am wholeheartedly in favor of us coming up with regulations surrounding dispensaries within our city, because it's happening. And but I think we've set precedent with the last appeal hearing, and so I would make a motion to follow the staff recommendation until such a time as we get that report back, and we can look at putting these regulations in place and then issuing some proper business licenses to business as it should be.
So just to clarify, you're making a motion that suspension be upheld, and further to that, that the business license for Avitas Pharmaco will be cancelled? Are we clear?
Yes, I believe that whatever this looks like in a couple months' time when we get the report back from staff, it would have to be a new business license being issued anyway, so to me, I don't see a big difference between a suspension or cancellation in this at this time, but I think there'll be some new framework with some new regulations and probably a new official name for a business license in the future is probably how I see that working, so yes.
Chris, was there a seconder for that? Seconded, okay. Do you want to speak to this, Councilor Martin, or Councilor Sentence?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think we do have to treat them all the same, even though, you know, I was certainly much more informed after today's presentation from Mr. Kay, and also the fact that Mr. Kay, you know, simply closed his doors immediately on request from the city. I think that's very professional, and if we can have him leading the charge for these new regulations, I think we'll be in good hands of doing this properly. But I still believe that we need to treat them all equally and create some regulations so that they can operate to meet the needs of their clients and make a profit as well, so they can continue to do that.
Councilor Sentence?
Thank you, Mayor Jacobite. It's such a difficult situation to come to a decision when there is so much emotion, and I, like some of my colleagues have expressed, have experience with the benefits of medical marijuana within my own family. However, as a municipal governance, I don't have a lot of leeway when the application for business license speaks to professional, scientific, and technical services. Professional, scientific, and technical services / management, scientific and technical consulting services, other scientific and technical consulting service, other scientific and technical consulting service. So what I'm, as a councillor, faced with is a business license that was applied for, and I think that's, Mr. Kunka, what you're having to deal with as well. If we stood aside from the fact that this business license is not in fact all that's happening there, we then open our entire city to the relevance of business license. Why would people get them? Or those that have them, you know, they would be offended. I support what the councillors have said before me. We need to address this. We do. The federal government has indicated they have an intent, but we don't know when or how long. And I don't think we can wait for that. So I have been supportive, I am supportive of our staff bringing back some recommendations that we can consider and put in place to address this properly. But in the meantime, I don't see that I have any choice. I have to support the recommendation by virtue of our business license application. So I too support it, but I will say again, I'm looking forward to the recommendation coming forward from staff. Thank you.
Just so I'll just jump in here. I don't disagree with, I mean, it's the same thing last time. I don't disagree with any of the points raised here. I don't think it exposes us to others not complying, because I think the political climate or sensitivity around this issue is different than most other scenarios. My reluctance to support something like this is it puts some of these business owners in a position where we cancel their license and they continue operating anyways. They say they have need in the community, and now it becomes more confrontational with us because now we have to enforce the fact that they're not open, and if we don't, then others will say, well, why bother, and all sorts of things. So it becomes a bit more complicated, and if we didn't have a window of next month coming back with some options to consider making this more regulated or formulated or allowing it or being more tolerant of it, and I realize it's perhaps not our mandate to judge which part of federal legislation we should turn a blind eye to or allow. You know, like I said before, certainly this is a lot more palatable to the public than, let's say, public nudity is, and there's another federal statute that we but regardless of that, that's sort of my thoughts of if we had to wait till January to get a staff report, then I probably would go along with canceling the business license. But the fact that we are going to be discussing this further in a